Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and talk to you guys about the subjunctive. I had just made this video and realized that it didn't record my screen. It was recording the top part, so it showed nothing. So this is my second attempt. Yay! So there's some markings on here that I can't get rid of because I had already done them for the last video. But anyway. So up until now, there's actually two moods in Spanish. There is the indicative mood and there is the subjunctive mood. And the indicative mood is used to express real, definite, or factual actions or states of being. And that's what we've been working in so far. Well, now we're going to learn how to express things in the subjunctive mood, which we use to express a speaker's attitudes, wishes, feelings, emotions, or doubts. Okay. You don't really need to worry yet about when we use the subjunctive. I mean, this might sound a little confusing at this point. We're just going to learn how to form it in these lessons, and then in future lessons we're going to talk about when you use it, okay? So to start with, it's pretty easy. All we're going to do is we're going to conjugate just like we did in the present tense, but what we're going to do is we are going to add the opposite ending. So if you have an AR verb, you're going to take your AR off, you're going to keep your stem, and you're going to add ER endings to your verb. If you have an ER or an IR verb, you're going to take your ending off, keep your stems, your com and your vive, and you're going to add AR endings. And that's pretty much it. So let's go ahead and look at practice. Okay, so here I've got ella comer. So if I want to turn it into the subjunctive, I'm going to write comer, okay? I'm going to get rid of my ER, but I know it's an ER verb, so I'm going to be looking in this chart. I'm going to go down here to ella, I'm going to go across, and what I'm supposed to add is an A, so I say coma. Here, nosotros tomar, I'm going to write tomar. I'm going to take my AR off, but I know it's an AR verb, so I'm going to go down here to nosotros. I'm only going to go across this far. It's an EMOS, tomemos. I'm going to skip number 3 and come back to it in a minute. Juan y Marta hablar. Juan y Marta is the same thing as saying ellos. Okay, so I'm going to take my, hablar. Okay, I'm going to take my AR off, but I know I'm an AR verb, so I'm going to go down to ellos, and I'm supposed to add an EN, hablen. Vosotros escribir, so I'm going to write in escribir. I'm going to get rid of my IR, but it is an IR verb, so I'm going to go down here to vosotros. I'm going to go across to my IR verb, and I'm going to add ais, escribáis. Okay, I'm going to skip number 6 and come back to it. Here I've got yo beber, so I'm going to write beber. I'm going to take off my ER ending. It's yo. It's an ER verb, so I'm going to go over here and I would add an A. Beba. Usted levantarse. This one is, I couldn't get that off. I'd already done it. It's a reflexive verb. If it's a reflexive verb, you do the same thing that you do in the present tense. In the present indicative tense, is that you have to move, when you conjugate your verb, you're going to move that reflexive pronoun in front of it, and you need to change it to match up with how you're conjugating your verb. Well, in this case, it's usted, so it's going to stay se, and then I would write levantar. I'm going to get rid of my AR. Sorry about that. And if it's for usted, usted is right here, it's an AR verb, I add an E, se levante, okay? Here, mi amigo montar, amigo is the same thing as él, okay? So I'm going to write in montar. I'm going to take my AR off, but it is an AR verb, so I go up here to L, over to AR, and I would add an E. Mi amigo monte. Here, mis amigos, well, we're going to skip that one and come back to it. Los estudiantes leer. Los estudiantes is the same thing as ellos. Okay, so I'm going to put in leer. I take away the ER, and if it's for ellos, I go down here to ellos. I go all the way across to an ER. I add an AN. Lean. And here, el centro comercial abrir. So centro comercial, remember, everything has a gender in Spanish, so you would treat centro comercial like el, because it's el centro comercial, it's masculine. So I'm going to write abrir, Okay, I'm going to get rid of my IR, but because I am using IR verbs, I'm going to go down here to L and across, and I would put an A. Okay, so now what do I do with hacer, tener, and ver? Why did I skip them? Well, I skipped them because if you remember, all these other verbs were regular in the present indicative, but those three were irregular in the yo. If a verb is irregular in the yo, in the present indicative, you use the same spelling changes for all forms in the present subjunctive. They are not considered irregular in the subjunctive. So what you would do is any verb that's irregular in the yo and the present indicative, you just change it to its yo spelling, then you drop its o, and then you add the opposite ending. Okay, so if we go back out here, we have tener. The yo form of tener should be is tango. Oops. Yeah, we will do. Well, yeah, let's just do them blue. Tango. I drop the O. Tener is an ER verb, so I go up here to yo. Here's my ER. I add an A. Tanga. Down here, hacer in the yo was hago. I drop the O. It's an ER verb, so for tu with an ER verb, I would add an AS. Hagas. Up here, it's mis amigos y yo, which is the same thing as nosotros, okay? Ver in the yo is veo. It's only irregular because it keeps the E. So I get rid of the O. I look down here at nosotros. I go across to ER. It's AMOS, so veamos. Okay. Okay, we're going to go ahead and look at another spelling change. The CAR, GAR, and ZAR verbs, when you're conjugating them, they were regular in the present tense, the present indicative tense, but if you remember in the preterite, they were irregular because you would end up with a scenario where you're changing their sound, you're putting E's next to them. E next to C would change the C from a K to a S. And G next to E changes your G from a G to a H. But if the verb originally has a K and a G, we want to keep that sound. And remember that with Z's, you can't ever put a Z next to an E. It always ends up changing to a C. So these spelling changes that happened in the preterite are the same ones that are going to happen here because we want to keep our K, G sound. And the only way we can do that is by adding a U next to our G, or changing our C to a QU or our Z to a C. So let's do some practice with that so I can show you what I mean. Okay, so here, Andrés quiere que el avión blank a tiempo. So he wants it to take off on time, which would be despegar. So I'm going to put despegar. Okay. All right, so then what I need to do, if I'm adding the opposite ending for despegar, which has a G sound in it originally, if I'm adding the opposite ending for an AR verb and it's the avión, that's the subject, it's L. So if I go down to L over, it's going to be an E. Well, if I put an E there, I'd be changing my despegar to despeje. Well, I don't want it to be despeje, I want it to be despegue. So what I do is I put a U here. So unlike in the preterite where this change only happened in the yo form, it happens throughout because for this AR, you're always, for yo, tu, el usted, no matter what the subject is, you're going to be adding an E next to a G, so you're going to have to put a U in there to buffer or to keep that hard G sound, okay? And again, I will just go over here so you can see this is how we knew how to conjugate or despegar. Tu mamá quiere que tú blank la basura. So probably your mother wants you to take it out. So sacar. Okay, so if I get rid of my AR, and it is an AR verb, and it's for tu, I'm going to be adding an ES. Well, that takes me from sacar to saces. I want to say saques. So I can change my C to a QU and I get that K sound. And you would do that for whomever the subject is with this verb, because anytime you add an E next to that C, you're changing it from a ka to a s, and we want to keep the ka. So you need to do whatever you can to keep the ka. Okay? Mi primo quiere que sus padres blank la cuenta después de cenar en su restaurante favorito. I don't know about you, but when I was younger, maybe even still now, I want my parents to pay the bill. So we would put pagar here. Okay, if I get rid of my AR, what I'm adding for padres, which is the same thing as ellos, I go down here for ellos, it was an AR verb, I'm going to add an EN. If I just simply do that, I'm taking my pagar to paguen. I want it to be paguen, so I put a U between my G and my E, and I can keep my G sound. Federico quiere que sus amigos pleen baloncesto todos los días antes del campeonato. So he wants them to practice, right? He wants them to be good. So again, amigos is for whom we're going to conjugate, but practicar is the verb we want, practicar. If I'm conjugating it into the subjunctive mood, I'm going to take away that AR. For friends, which would be the same thing as ellos, I'd be adding an EN. When I do that, I've taken my verb that has that hard C, practicar, and made it practicen. Well, I want it to be practiquen, so I'm going to take away that C and replace it with a QU, so I get practiquen. Raquel no puede encontrar su mochila, quiere que yo so she can't find it, she wants me to look for it, buscar. But it's I who's going to be looking for it. Okay, so I put in buscar. Okay, if I'm conjugating for yo, I get rid of that AR. For the yo, I'm going to add an E. But then that takes that verb buscar to busque. We want it to still be busque, so I'm going to get rid of that C and replace it with a QU. Okay, Lorena quiere que su hermano menor, that's going to be our subject, hermano menor or hermano, blank bien el pelo antes de salir a la calle. So she wants him probably to dry it really well so he doesn't get sick, right? So we have secarse. Okay, before I can do anything with my verb, I have to move that se. Se actually goes in front of the verb, and we keep it se. It could have changed to me or te, but because it's hermano, we want him to dry his own hair. We're going to keep it se. So I'm going to get rid of that AR. If it's for él and it was an AR verb, I'm going to add an E here. But that would take my verb from secar with a K sound to se with a soft C sound. I want to get back that hard C. So I changed the C to a QU, seque.